So thrilled to be here chatting with all of you. We're new to Discord, so bear with us.
We'll do our best.
We'll get into the groove here.
Favorite scary movie right now at this moment, Nightmare on Elm Street, the original. It's definitely the one that kind of like broke me into horror, and I just love to this day.
Man, I have a couple answers. My first horror movie was Killer Clowns from Outer Space. It was the first VHS tape that I ever owned. It was gifted to me by my dad, and we watched it so much that I think we wore the tape out. I don't know. I don't know if it's my favorite, but it definitely was my entry point into horror in so many ways.
Favorite Ghostface? What's your favorite Ghostface?
I'm like, I've got a lot of Stu. I got a lot of Stu Macher.
I was gonna go Stu too. Double Stu. I think when Stu because Stu's the second reveal in the original, so I think when that was like the real shocking moment, Yeah,
I also would say that for me, one of the most incredible kind of moments in that first movie is after the killers have been revealed, that kitchen scene that Matthew Lillard's work like keeps the energy up to a level like most of the when movies, you typically at that point in a movie you sort of hit that lull where it's like, okay, we know who the killers are, like kind of get to the next thing, and his performance specifically in that chunk is just like it just totally keeps the foot on the gas and keeps it fun, and there's so much character in it because of how weird and wacky that character is.
But then Billy brings the heart, so it's kind of tough, but yeah.
Favorite hiding place? I was gonna say bed because I have a fear of having my feet grabbed when I'm getting into bed. Like I always, even now, like if I'm standing next to my bed, so I want to get under there just to avoid that specific scare. But I've also seen plenty of horror movies where the person's hiding under the bed and they get violently yanked out from under it.
Yeah, I think my inclination is to run, to not hide, to just keep running and get as far away as possible. But I'll go closet. Go closet. What was the fourth one? There was another.
Yeah, was there another? What was the other? We're missing a sub question.
I mean, I feel like, even though I probably hate to admit it, I'm most like a Randy. I mean, I love Randy, don't get me wrong, but I think minus the killing, I'd probably rather be a Billy or something. But Randy. And then rules. I mean, I don't say I'll be back. Because I don't.
You really don't.
Yeah,
I've never heard you say that.
It's certain things, when you see them when you're younger, they just stick with you. Like I won't say Candyman. Times I don't say I'll be back. They just stuck with me.
I'm definitely a Tatum.
Oh, definitely.
I don't know what rule. I don't know. I feel like I definitely I would also say that I'm a Randy, but only because I think that I'm the guy who would think that my smarts would get me out of the situation when really you're just walking yourself deeper into your own peril.
Second up, maybe a Kirby.
Yeah. Well, they are not alone. Yeah. We are huge Kirby fans. The whole franchise. Oh, man, there are just so many iconic, great ones.
Does it? Okay, actual death scene? Because I was gonna say Scream 2, just the entire Dewey, Gale.
Oh, in the
sound room.
Yeah.
The pizza on the, all that. But that's not technically a death scene.
No, I mean the one that comes to mind also is Scream 2. The Sid and Haley trying to get out of the car.
Yeah,
that's one that just for me is such a perfect example of how beautifully crafted the sequences are in those movies, where it's just stacking one obstacle on top of another and forcing the characters to actually get really close to the killer in a totally new way. It's just fantastic. I mean, Tatum's death is another one that just is,
Yeah.
An all-timer. So yeah, I guess the answer is hard to choose a favorite. Well, iconic is the right idea, right? And that's something, I mean, we can just say, as in tackling this new movie, that one of the things that we really tried to do, and we hope so desperately comes through to the audience, is really give each kind of sequence its own identity. Really kind of drill down and say, oh, this is the one where this happens because of how memorable all of the kills are in all four Scream movies.
Yeah, I think we were definitely nervous reading the script for the first time because we wouldn't want to get involved if it was going to do any kind of disservice to Wes or to the original franchise. And one of the things that we really lucked out on is that Guy and Jamie, the writers, they did a fantastic job and wrote a great script that felt like it was the next Scream movie. So we had that just to get us through the entire thing. And then also, Wes Craven had left an incredible blueprint for us to follow. So we've spent so much of the past couple years rewatching all the Scream movies, and then also watching the rest of his filmography, reading every interview, watching every interview, just really trying to get to know him as well as we can. And hopefully that really shows in the final product.
Yeah, we talked a lot about how, one of the challenges of making something that's just fully original and has no kind of, audience approaches, it comes to it with no preconceived notions. That has its own challenges. But with this movie, we had this sort of luxury of having that kind of feeling, that muscle memory that we know from watching the Scream movies and loving them so dearly, that when we were on set shooting, it was really clear when it felt like, oh yeah, this scene feels like I'm having that same feeling watching the monitor that I had when I was watching this part of the first Scream or this part of the second Scream. So there was really a sense of kind of an emotional memory and an intuition that honestly is just sort of baked into who we are as creators because of how much we love Wes and the Scream movies and really all of his work. We should also say too that the Nev and Courtney and David, just getting to work with them, they bring such not only an institutional knowledge of just the process, but they care so deeply for those characters and know them so well. And we were the new guys entering an old family, and so it was really we had a lot of support and a lot of guidance from people who not only worked on the previous movies but also just knew and loved Wes so dearly. So yeah, it was at the end of the day, equal parts, I think, just total panic, but also real excitement to get to bring a new Scream movie to life.
I mean, well, what inspired us to get involved is very simple for us. It was because we're huge fans of the franchise, and then we read a great script that fit right in. So we were a little nervous going into that process, and then again, like I said a minute ago, like once we read the script, it was holy shit. If this actually happens, it's going to be incredible.
We've got a blueprint. We've got a great blueprint.
This is really exciting.
What was Brandon? What was the other part of that question? Oh, how it's different.
Oh, right.
Well, I mean, I think we can say without spoiling anything, one of the things that we love so dearly about the franchise is how each movie, each installment is so specific to the time that it was made and released, and so they're all wildly original because at sort of at their core, those movies are an examination of the genre and pop culture and kind of everything that entails. And those are obviously, those things are very specific to a point in time. And so in 2021, 2022, making a Scream movie now and sort of what it's tackling thematically and the conversation that we want to have with audiences is just kind of intrinsically different because what Guy and Jamie again did so beautifully is they found a way to not only make this project feel like inevitable and that it had to exist and that there was more story to be told in this saga, but that in addition to that, there are real conversations, meta conversations happening, and there's something this movie has to say about sort of where we're at with the genre and where we're at in pop culture, and so I think audiences will have a real good time with that, and it just sort of feels original and organic to the time, like the other movies, just because of of what's in the DNA of a Scream movie.
Oh, sorry, you cut out for a minute there.
Sorry, Brandon, we lost you for a second there. What was that? Repeat that.
Um, well, that's really a question for Guy and Jamie, so we didn't come up with that part. But I know from our part, we really did try to focus while making the movie on making sure that the technology that they had written into the script was dealt with in a way that didn't make it overbearing. Where this is hopefully not like a technology movie. It's not. While yes, naturally some things in 10 years will feel old because that's how everything works. The idea was how can we make this just feel like it's being used the way people use it in real life and then not dwell on it, not have to explain it, but also not spend too much time on it because hopefully you just understand what you're seeing. Because the last thing we want to do is bog the movie down with like tech stuff. It's just, to us, it's not exciting in movies. We want to focus on the human element and go from there.
Yeah, and I think to the degree that we get specific, I think it's about finding a way for that technology to be, used against somebody to be an obstacle, which of course we've now seen, in the trailer. That was such a fun moment for us, and it's such a great moment in the script to set up the notion that this piece of technology is responsible for keeping you safe, and then to flip that on its head and show the audience that this reliance that we have on things can really be played with, and that maybe we're more vulnerable than we think we are.
Yeah, I mean it. I think the family vibe that was created on set, cast, crew, everybody involved. I think part of it is because we were shooting during COVID, so we were all in this weird new version of making a movie together, and we couldn't really interact with the outside world much. So we all spent a lot of time together, a lot of game nights and stuff like that. And it was a lot of fun, just really getting to know everyone. And then everyone involved is a gigantic Scream fan, and so everybody was just thrilled to be on set making a new Scream movie, including us. Where I don't think we're ever able to. We're never not kind of fanboying, and so it's like this weird experience where you're sort of out of body the whole time, but you're also trying to do something that you really believe in and make sure that it's good so that we don't let anybody down. But I think that's my best memory. And then there's a million little instances of that, of just
Yeah.
like people coming together
And even coming together, I think one of the things that we were so surprised by, and still are, is it's rare when you're on a film set where if an actor is not on the call sheet or shooting a scene, that they're actually there to watch what's
Yeah.
happening. And there were so many days on set where we'd be shooting a scene with these two actors, and we'd turn around and all of the rest of the cast would be there just to hang out, just to give their support. And I mean, there was a real sense of camaraderie and closeness, and that was, I mean, through and through with the new cast and the legacy cast. I mean, there was everyone was really, I think we all just showed up to do the same thing, and we all loved it in the same way. Yeah, and then I mean, I feel like if we talk too specifically about moments, we can get ourselves into trouble really, really quick.
But let's do this again after it comes out, and we'll talk about all of them.
Would love it. I I can say that we definitely wanted Ghostface to be terrifying, and it's one of the things that I think shaped our perception of the genre early on when we saw the first Scream movie. Just knowing how far a movie could go in that direction, and still be fun and funny and entertaining, and have all of those things that we now just associate with Scream. It's become its own sort of singular tone, and so we definitely wanted to push that as far as we possibly could. And it was something that, in an early conversation we had with Patrick Lussier, who was Wes's original editor and cut all the Scream movies. One of the things they always talked about was wanting to make sure that the audience feels like they're in the hands of a madman, and that the movie is gonna take some risks, and it's gonna push people out of their comfort zone, and it's gonna deal with some really challenging shit. And
While having a lot of fun.
yeah, while having a lot of fun doing it. But it was really nice to have that voice in our ears, to just know, like, oh, when we were presented with do we show how brutal this is, or do we not show how brutal this is, knowing that the sort of DNA of these movies suggests that you can go there, you can push people over the edge of the cliff, and that they'll go with it, and in fact, it'll actually make the experience even better. So yes, it is. It is. There are moments that are going to make you squirm, for sure.
They had a lot, and they were across the board wonderful to work with. They, like Tyler was saying earlier, we were kind of the new kids on the block, and they were so welcoming and so warm and giving, and they all got on board because Guy and Jamie wrote a great script. And then once they were on board, they had thoughts on their characters that were so valuable to us, because they're things that we would never be able to kind of know, having not lived with it for 25 years. And so they all had input. They all gave a lot of great script notes. And then just as a whole, they kind of were like the parents on set in a way, and that they made us all feel really welcome. They were wonderful with the new cast. Everybody got along great, and they just made us feel like a part of the extended Scream family, which was just really special. And as far as their characters go, they've been living with those three characters for a long time, so they knew them inside and out. And it, again, going back to us being like fans, it was really thrilling to watch, like Nev Campbell become Sidney Prescott.
It was so hard to like
fucking
remember to do your job.
Yeah, it's as surreal as you think. It's crazy. Oh yeah, oh, it's so good. She nailed that.
Yes, the answer is yes, and I think it's part of what makes this series so incredible and so fun to be a fan of is just by the nature of a whodunit. You know, everyone can be a bit of a detective with these, and certainly, you know, we are definitely aware of the theories that are out there. And by the way, before you know, Guy and Jamie started writing the script, their level of fandom is deeper than anybody that we know, and I'm sure they spent a lot of time looking at, you know, fan reactions and what people sort of think about the, you know, the original four and maybe where a fifth movie could go. Just because of the meta nature of these movies, I think you have to have a full awareness of what the conversation that's happening is, so that you can subvert those expectations and ultimately provide the audience with as many fun misdirects and twists as possible. I mean, that at the end of the day is what we love so much about these movies. Is, you know, they're horror movies, but they're murder mysteries, and that sort of layer for us is, you know, is really in so many ways what separates them from other, you know, other horror movies.
There's also, just to do a little plug, there's also some great podcasts right now that are talking about Scream and the legacy, and the, you know, there's the Woodsboro podcast, which is fantastic. And it's, you know, again, as fans, we listen to these things, so it's weird to be fans listening to them. And then also now they're talking about our movie, which is surreal and very, very fun.
Well, I think first and foremost, we would say thank you. I
Yeah.
mean, this movie wouldn't exist if it didn't have the loyal fan base that it has. And, you know, we certainly had a small taste of it early on when, you know, when the news broke that we were making another Scream movie. And now that, you know, bits and pieces of it are starting to enter the world, the response has just been mind blowing. The amount of support and love that we feel from from the community is truly incredible, and I don't think it's like nothing we've ever experienced before, and will ever experience again. It's been life changing, and we're only at the very beginning of it.
Yeah, and I mean, you know, it's not at all hyperbole to say that we made this movie for you guys to be able to enjoy another chapter of Scream, just like we want another chapter of Scream, you know. And the hope is that you like it as much as we do, and reach out, hit us up. Like, for us, this whole process is a lot about interacting with fans of Scream. And because, again, I mean, I feel like I'm saying it over and over, but like, we are fans of Scream. We want to talk about Scream all the time.
Yeah, we've been joking that
We love
we just made a big budget fan film.
Yeah, so it's like, there's, you know, it just means the world to us that you guys have been so supportive. It really does.
Yes, please. Let's do more of these. Sounds great.
Thank you.
Thank
Thank you,
you.
guys.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you, everyone.